Hey, good morning everybody. It's Josh Mall, the voice for Swimming Pool Science, and today we are putting together a 15-foot round above ground pool here in the beautiful area of Dolores, Colorado. It's breezy, a little bit dusty, it's damn sunny, and we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna take you through the steps, so stay with us. Now, before we can do any assembly or construction of this pool, we've got to have a level space to put it on stable ground. What we've done is put down some 3/4 road bed ABC, followed by some soft, nice dirt on top of that will get leveled off and compacted down. Now keep in mind that you don't have to have this perfectly exactly level, but the more level you have it, the more even the ground is, the better it is for the pool itself and the more pleasurable the swimming experience. You also want to pick a good spot to put it. They've decided to put it just below the patio of their house, which is a little difficult to see because of the sun, giving them a great view of the pool for supervision and things like that. As well as some killer views of the sunset just over to our west. So this would be a good spot. They've got access to power, they've got access to all their stuff, and they've got some good windbreak here with the trees, which is definitely going to help, but might cause a little bit of debris to get in the pool, but you know, we'll address those things as they come. Now, I'll be honest with you, in the thousands upon thousands of pools that I've worked on in the 30+ years that I've been in the business, never built an above ground pool, and I've worked on very few. So I'm going to be learning right along with you guys. So, you know, we'll do our best. There may be some better guys out there that know what they're doing. Probably get a little bit of armchair quarterbacking in the comments, which is just fine because I want to know exactly what we could have done better on this so that we can do a better job next time. So stick around, watch along, and then I want to see what you guys put in the comments. So before we can lay out a liner or put down our felt pad, we've got to lay down the bottom track that's going to outline where the walls go and everything. And today the name of the game with our hardware is screwdrivers. Now, the reason we use screwdrivers instead of using a screw gun or a drill is because it's very easy, just like if you were repairing a speaker, to poke holes in things you do not want holes in. So we're going to shy away from using drills today and just go with the screwdrivers. We're also going to be careful and keep this guy far away from any of our vinyl stuff or anywhere near the pool. It's great for opening boxes and stuff like that, but keep it way clear of anything vinyl or anything that's not supposed to have holes in it, like the vinyl liner of the pool. It's a little tricky sliding the bottom track into our track joints here, but with a little bit of effort, they'll slide right in. So now that our bottom ring is established, we know the shape of the pool, we know the size of the pool. This gives us a picture visually of where this pool exactly is going to lay out. And this is our last chance to adjust or reposition, as 2 or 3 of us can go around and carefully move this thing around and get it exactly where we want it to be. Now, the next step is going to be installing the wall. And while we do this, we want to make sure that we position the wall such that our pre-cut skimmer hole is exactly where we want our equipment to be. So before we just put the wall in willy-nilly, we've got to make sure that our wall is oriented correctly in relation to where we want our equipment. There you go. Oh my gosh. There it goes. Wow. You okay, Mark? Yep. You also want to make sure the liner's right side up. You don't want to put it in upside down. and it goes like this because this. We're upside down. So like I said, you really want to make sure that the liners or the wall is right side up, because now it's going to be a lot harder for us to flip this thing over. We got to roll the whole thing up to make sure we don't crease or damage the wall here. So here we go. Like I said, worked on thousands of pools, just not thousands of above ground pools. The other thing we got to watch out for is down at the bottom, this is getting real heavy. If we crease or damage that edge, it's going to make it real difficult to put this thing together. You ever seen two monkeys humping a football? We make the mistakes so you don't have to. By far, the hardest part of doing this is getting this to pop in the track. It's really difficult. The biggest thing to watch out for is this thing bending or creasing. And if you can see it, we did get one tiny crease right there, and hopefully that's all we're gonna see on this. So we're gonna need a vacuum to help properly get our liner where it is. But the other important thing about a vacuum, we're dealing with right here where the dirt is soft, is that dirt is getting up in the track as we're trying to do that. So we're gonna have to vacuum up some of that dirt. Now you might be saying, why didn't they wet it down? They should have wet it down. Well, we probably should have put a little water on that. But my thoughts we're gonna put that felt pad down in here. And I didn't want a ton of moisture trapped underneath that felt pad for mold and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of dealing with the consequences of that right now. But heck, you wanna make sure you don't have too much loose dirt, because if it gets in that track, you got problems. But of course, it's Mark to the rescue. So we got the seam lapped correctly. If you look here, with the extra on the outside, but despite what I said earlier, Mark here ended up inside the swimming pool, so we'll figure out how he's going to get out later. Lined up, but look what it does right here. If you watch down through the holes, you see how they slowly get more and more misaligned until we get to here, right here, and at the bottom here, what happens is that the two pieces of liner crisscross each other and overlap that way. So we're gonna start at the top, put our screws in loosely, and then we're gonna use our Phillips screwdriver to slowly line the holes in and work this thing down into position as we get to the bottom. All right, so we've got all of our bolts in, our strategy worked, this thing evened out and went exactly where we wanted it to go, which was pretty cool. Right now what I'm doing, I'm checking all of our bolts back after we've tightened them to make sure that everything's got about the same even torque. Of course, you could use a torque wrench on this, but I don't have one, so I'm going by feel. So our next step is going to be just kind of refinishing out the bottom here, making sure it's nice and smooth. And the other thing we need to do is we are going to need to get some kind of overlap in this corner here to protect the liner. Now, in the directions it says we can do a sand edge, basically just a nice little grade of sand right along that edge. Or if we have prefab foam like this that came with our kit, that would go right up against the sides just like that. So that's going to be our next step. So as I'm putting these uprights in, I thought to myself, you know what? We do not want the seam of our wall to meet up with our joint here. But the problem with that is that means that now when I go to put this in, we have got these screws right there that are going to be protruding out that are not covered by the wall piece. Now, the way this thing is put together, now that I look at it, that seam could have absolutely gone onto that joint down below, and that would have worked out really nicely, and it would have been a little safer. So, you know, for our applications, hey, we're not too worried, but if I were you, make sure that your joint and seam go together so that this guy right here covers that up. All right, everybody. As we get through this, I'm going to tell you this right now. It's going to be important to have a decent ladder on hand while you do this. Our next step, and this is where it gets a little scary for me, is we're going to put our felt pad down along with our vinyl liner. So at this point, we're going to need a vacuum on hand, and we'll see how it goes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten all this area out. I'm going to start spreading my vinyl liner, and I'm just going to work my way back to my ladder and just kind of work my way out, and that way everything's good and smooth here. Give me one last chance to pick out any little bits of rocks and stuff like that as we go here. Now, it's always important to get these last little rocks out because there's nothing worse than stomping around in an above ground pool and coming down with your heel on a pointy rock, man. No thanks. All right, what we're doing right now is we are rolling around this. Basically, it's a little layer of insulation that kind of helps prevent condensation on the outside of this metal pool wall, which will help with corrosion and stuff like that. And we're just going around, and I'm just using packing tape to tape this right up to the edge like that as we go along about every 2 or 3 feet. And I just want to make sure that I've got enough here so that it goes flat to the sides when we go to put our liner in and doesn't pinch or have any wrinkles in it or anything like that. All right, so as we get ready to install our vinyl liner, one of the things we got to do is we got to seal up our holes. Now the directions ask us to put our vacuum hose in to this hole, but it's just a hair too small, so we'll go into the skimmer hole and just tape around it. But what I've done here to make it easy to get the tape off is I've just folded a corner of the tape over onto itself so that I can just pull it up like a tab, and I can pull that tape off super easy. All right, so next step, now that we got this liner partially rolled out, is to fasten it on. And right around the edge, it's got a nice lip, plus a couple little seams right here, which are just seams, but this lip goes over the top, just like that. And then once we have gotten that a little ways, then that's where this guy comes in. And that guy goes down to hold it in place and crimp that in place. So we're gonna do this whole thing all the way around, and we've just started. So Mark, what are we gonna do here, man? How are we gonna get you out of the situation?
Might have to use my knife. Or maybe the ladder.
You want me to give you a shovel and you can crawl under and dig your way out? Or do you think you can Bruce Lee jump your way out?
Probably.
Yeah. All right, now that we got the liner in place, the next step is to put these guys on, and this is what it's going to give the pool while it's upper shape. As you can see right now, a little flubbly and wobbly and warped on the top and slightly wonky, so we're going to take care of that with these guys. All right, so next thing is that these guys go on and they join up these columns right here to meet up with our seams right here. So you see we got the seam right here, and these guys will join up here, and they're supposed to match up here. But you know what they say, Christopher Columbus didn't need directions, and neither do I, and this is the consequences of this. So now what we got to do, god dang it, we got to remove all these metal liners, reline them up with the columns, and then we're gonna have to pound this one on so that this joint meets up over here. So by not following the directions, we've made more work for ourselves. All right, well, Mark fixes my screw up on the top rails. I'm going along behind him, and we are installing these guys right here. These guys go on here. I'll take you through those steps right now. First step is to pop them on. I found it's easier to angle it this way to pop them on instead of trying to go on straight or even this way. Angle them down this way, and then they will snap into place just like that, going right over the top of that joint where the top rails meet together. This guy slides in like that. And we have screw holes right here and right there. And we will screw in. All right, so here comes the partially exciting part. This is where we start vacuuming the liner and filling the bottom of this guy up. So we're gonna do some last minute adjustments to the liner with the rake, get the vacuum going, and then finish putting these brackets on.
So yeah, it goes with the bigger edge out.
All right, so hose is running. Liner is sitting where it's gonna sit. Now, we could have probably gotten a little bit more perfect, but we did have some struggles with the vacuum trying to suck the liner on. What we did figure out though is that the more powerful the vacuum is not necessarily better. You do want a good seal around your vacuum where it's going in to draw that liner in, but too strong of a vacuum and all it does is just suck the liner in and cause all kinds of problems. So you don't want a super strong vacuum to suck the liner. You just want something that can go and go and go and help kind of draw that air out as the bottom of the pool is filling up. The other thing we did is I used a rake end here to kind of adjust the liner and try to work the wrinkles out. We got most of them out. We may have a few wrinkles going up the walls, but overall, I don't think we did too bad for my very first experience dealing with any kind of vinyl pool liner whatsoever. So I'll call that a success. What we're gonna do right now is gonna work on getting our top pieces on. When the water fills up, probably to about 6 or 8 inches below the skimmer, that's when we're going to attach our skimmer and our return lines, because right now what's happening is that as that pool fills up, the air we have kind of that's between the liner and the wall of the pool, that's going to give that air a place to go and leave before we seal those holes back up. So it'll escape through where the skimmer opening and the return opening will be, and then tomorrow we'll come back and we will get the skimmer in, hook up the equipment, and hopefully start splashing around.
They took a pea and put white food coloring in it and then put it all over dirt and made it into a pool cover. I hate the way it looked. It's disgusting.